Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck. It's just another day in America. I believe 2 days ago, somebody got their head cut off. They were beheaded in Texas. I believe the same day, there was a school shooting where a child got shot. I don't think there were any fatalities in that particular one, but that's maybe the 200th school shooting this year. And there's an average about 200 per year. But for some reason, Charlie Kirk, who I have on good authority, most of the people that are posting about him didn't even know who he was before he got shot in the neck. And I believe the reason why it's so popularized or publicized or why everybody's gripped by it is because we saw the actual footage of him getting shot. And when you actually see that, it's visceral, right? It's tough to watch. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it's tough to hear about every day, about children getting slaughtered. It's tough to hear about your tax dollars going to afford the destruction of a people in a land and starving people to death. It's tough to live with the fact that people in your government and people who are the so-called leaders of America are getting away with the sexual assault of children as not just a pastime and a hobby, but as an enterprise. It's tough to understand how people support someone who was so close to Jeffrey Epstein and then turn around and take the moral high ground when people don't feel sorry because Charlie Kirk was shot. It's hard to feel sorry. Charlie Kirk has a quote where he says, empathy is a made-up term. And he said it's a destructive term. On the face of it, it comes off as hilarious and callous and cold, and hilarious because it's so ironic of what's going on now. But when you analyze what he was trying to say, he was trying to say, like, your enemy uses empathy against you. They know that because you're a good person, you're going to tap in and empathize when you see the loss of human life. And he's saying, don't let that control you. Don't let that be in the way when we're trying to use this hate for our own interests. That was the lesson he was teaching that day. And it was in response to tragic death that was going on in the world. I feel there's something to learn from that lesson. The lesson to learn here is that if someone's political ideology is that you shouldn't exist, if someone's political ideology is black people were better off as slaves because their freedom and their voice to speak is inconvenient for my own self-interest, when someone's political ideology is that white people are somehow better than black people, when someone's political ideology is that is just hatred, it's just based on simple hatred, showing that person empathy, it's going to be to your own detriment because you allow that person's views to be looked at on the same level as your own. And then people have to choose. And if, those people don't see that ideology the same way you see it, you have just helped the person who hates you be in control and have power over the country. If you haven't noticed, that doesn't get you far.
You know what's crazy? Because I was thinking about that on the way here. Mm-hmm. It's like they want empathy when something like happens and we give it to them. And then when something happens, like you reverse the situation, we ask for empathy. Like, and I'll just use Charlie Kirk as the example. I won't use nobody else. But you want us to give you empathy in this situation. But like with the George Floyd situation, for example, you gave us your ass to kiss, my nigga. Like, just point blank, period.
It doesn't need to be said, but I'll just say it. George Floyd wasn't a hero to black people. he was the latest example of what happens to us live on camera. He's the latest example of them not caring about us. And people say, oh, he was a criminal. He did this in his past. And now when it's George Floyd, it's okay to bring up his past. But when it's Charlie, what's his name? Kirk, people are saying, why are you looking up old tweets? He wasn't a hero to us. The reason why we marched and did what we did is because he could be any of us. That was a true example of empathy. When we watched them murder George Floyd on camera and his killer be convicted, and then watched all these people come out and mock George Floyd's death and lie about the circumstances of his death and so on and so forth, we got upset and we marched because that's true empathy. Justice for all. Charlie Kirk spoke against that. And then he was murdered live on camera, and a lot of people, quote unquote, celebrated.
By his own terms, murdered on camera.
Yeah. He was in the middle of discussing why mass shootings don't happen to be a problem for white America. That most mass shooters are black or in gangs, is what he said. He didn't really necessarily say black at the moment. He didn't get a chance to, because as soon as he spoke on how, he does it, as soon as he responded to the question, how many people, what is the persuasion of the people, what is the majority of mass shooters, what race do they belong to? He spoke over, he's talking with or without gangs. And then he got shot in the neck.
By a white guy.
By presumably a white guy.
No, by a white guy. We got a picture of that nigga now.
Who knows if that's the right picture? But I'm telling you right now, if I had dice in my hand and I put 100 on the table, I'm betting on white. So it's mind-boggling. And I didn't really want to do this video because it's truly disturbing how the world works. Friends of mine are advocating for us to show civility for Charlie Kirk. When, was it a month ago, 2 months ago, the senator from Minnesota was murdered, her and her husband, in front of their 6-year-old in their home, and Trump mocked them. Not Trump mocked them. Trump mocked a whole different person that was attacked with a hammer. But there was other political Republicans that mocked him. They laughed at him. They created memes. They lied and said and obfuscated about who did the crime. And now this is a big outpouring. All of a sudden, when it happens to them, now it's a tragedy. Now it's so sad to see because it's happening to you. Charlie Kirk said that gun violence is unfortunate but necessary. He said we need to protect the Second Amendment, and what goes along with that is sometimes gun violence is going to happen. He went on to make the comparison that we have cars, and I forget what the number was, but let's say 6 million people, 600,000 people, however many, die in vehicular homicides or due to car accidents. And he said that's just a fact of life if you're going to have cars. So he said in order to have guns, we have to accept some gun violence. So essentially, gun violence is a necessary evil. And that some people just gonna have to die. Cool. I'm sure when he made that statement, he thought it was gonna be you that was gonna die. He thought it was gonna be me that was gonna die. He thought it was gonna be our children that was gonna die. But nah, take one for the team, pussy. You died, you know what I'm saying? For the gun violence. He lived and died exactly the way he wanted to. And everybody's like, oh, the violence in America is at a fever pitch. Now it's at a fever pitch. Have you not been noticing what's going on? Trump came out and changed it to the Secretary of War and said, we're going to show Chicago why we call it that, and posted a meme. Then it's him talking about, hey, I'll tell you how to handle things. Pew, done. Bing, bing, done. Bing, bong, done. And everybody's laughing. These people speak a language of violence. They deal in violence and death and hatred. And then when it comes back on them, they want to act shocked. And then they want to falsely blame it on the other side. They call it a psyop, they call it a false flag, whatever you want to call it. What they do is called trigonometry. And their propaganda is to take stuff that happens and just attack the truth. At this point, they're not even lying. At this point, they're literally, this is an all-out assault on truth. Before they even knew who did it, you have Republicans coming out saying, Democrats have to own this one. Liberals have to own this one. I see people posting memes of all the different shooters that were transsexual and all this other kind of stuff. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. This is what they do to control narratives. And meanwhile, while we're talking about this, the victims of Jeffrey Epstein got to wake up every day knowing that his accomplice is in a low security prison because after she lied under oath, they decided to take her word to tell them who was on the file and who wasn't. And of course, Trump wasn't. It's disgusting. This whole world is disgusting. And then you have well-meaning people who turn themselves into useful idiots. Because instead of taking 10 minutes to understand who Charlie Kirk is and understand what his death means, all they can speak is in the abstract because that's all they know. They can only speak in generalities because that's all you know. A man's life was taken today. But why was his life taken? What does that mean? A man was taken from his kids. That's how many kids just died in Gaza. That's how many people just died all over the world. That's how many people just died in America. Where's your prayers then? Why do you have such an outcry and outpouring for Charlie Kirk and not for the dozens of kids that were murdered in America this year? The reason is, one, it's not politically usable. Like, it's not politically convenient to talk about that. You don't get any cachet online by just speaking about murders that happen every single day. It's become so common in this country that no one's upset by it anymore. It's just another thing that happens. So when a celebrity dies, now that can give you online cachet. And that's why you feel so strongly for no reason. Just ask yourself that. Ask yourself why you decided today of all days to come out and say, or yesterday of all days to come out and say, if you're laughing at someone being murdered, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're not human. Where were you when they were laughing at us? I see people on my timeline, white girls that try to relate, talking in slang when they talk to me and shit. And then they get online and have this Republican take about Charlie Kirk, and then all of a sudden their words don't have a black scent anymore. All of a sudden now you use the language of those who hate us. Yeah, I don't get any pleasure out of doing this video. And it's not because I give a single fuck about Charlie Kirk. It's because I just see the bigger picture, man. And they've basically already won at this point. They just got to carry the ball over the fucking end zone, man. They basically already won. They got us fighting over how we feel about a guy who's textbook evil, who spewed textbook racism. They got us fighting about how we should react to his death. And they're using their tools of control to control what information, how it's disseminated, and how we react to it. They're using Twitter, Facebook feeds to fine tune you on how you should react to it. And if you don't make the statement of, oh, this never should happen, political violence is always wrong, does that really need to be said? What person in the world doesn't know that killing somebody else is wrong? The people who need to be reminded is the people who are killing people every single day and making that decision like it's okay. The person who needs to be reminded is the person who championed Charlie Kirk even after he said that having empathy and gun violence is okay. Having empathy is, what do you say, destructive, and gun violence is okay. A person who can put those two thoughts, have those two thoughts in their head, how is that not patently evil? If I wrote a movie script and I had the villain say, empathy is destructive and gun violence is necessary, what would you think about that person? You would know by instinct that that person's evil. Yet Charlie Kirk says it right live on camera, and we're the evil ones for not having empathy for that man. I'm not celebrating. I'm not joyous that Charlie Kirk died. Because in my opinion, it would mean more if someone put his views to shame. It would mean more because he's so outright the op. If someone focused in on him, zeroed in on him, and trounced his views. That happened several times. But what I realize now is in this day and age, the truth is obfuscated. So you don't leave room for people to speak out because they're either censored or it's somehow chopped in reverse. You don't leave room for people to legally get any refuge. What's left? If they can't go through it, if you can't have a speech, if you can't have a politician, if you can't get it through politics, if you can't get it through speaking out and protesting, if you can't get it through discourse, if you can't go to the courts and get justice, the Supreme Court just said it's okay for them to racially profile you. If you can't get it through the courts, what are you supposed to get it through? What are you left with? Violence. And I'm telling you, it's been happening the whole time. It's been happening the whole time. You think ICE is just running up on everybody and never had any incidents? Nah, they have. They just don't show you because they want you to feel like it's a flawless victory on their end. I don't know how to get this through to people, but we're in the middle of unprecedented insanity in America. We have a person in office who is trying to make it become a dictatorship. I've said this months and months ago, but everyone will feel it. People who try not to pay attention to the news or don't care anything about the news, you're gonna feel it too. Everyone's gonna feel it. What are you gonna do about it? I don't know, man. It seems like all is lost. But that's exactly how they want you to feel. And not for nothing, I wouldn't be surprised if Israel assassinated Charlie Kirk, because of the few things he spoke out about was against Israel that I agree with. So Charlie Kirk is dead. I'm sure there's 5 more Charlie Kirks going to take his place.